Two of my top daily training options from 2024. Which one should you choose? The ASICS Novablast 5 or the New Balance Rebel V4? What's up everybody, I'm Eric McIntyre, aka Rad Dad Bod. You're watching Rad Dad Bod TV, where we review running shoes. Today we're going to be comparing the Novablast 5 versus the Rebel V4, which like I said, these were both 2024 releases, but I had someone comment on one of my other comparisons and request this comparison. Now if it's your first time watching one of my videos, you may notice some timestamps below. Feel free to jump around to the various parts of the review, but if you do so, I would sure appreciate if you come back and watch the full video when you get a sec, as I put a lot of time and effort into these. And if you've been watching for a while and you haven't yet hit that subscribe button, please do so now and turn on notifications so that way you get notified every time I drop a new video, which in 2025 we've been trying to do daily weekday videos. Now to kick us off, some quick disclaimers and disclosures. I was provided the Novablast 5 from the local ASICS sales rep through my local running store who I've created content for in the past. The Rebel V4 I bought with my own money. Neither of these were provided for the purpose of review. Neither of these were provided for the purpose of any actual particular content. I was not paid to make these videos. I'm not asked to include these shoes in any videos. I'm not given talking points, anything like that. All thoughts are entirely my own. Now with that out of the way, let's talk about the intended use of these two shoes. Now, if you look both of these up on their respective websites, you're probably going to see them listed as daily trainers. But daily training is actually a very broad category that in my mind can be broken down into three distinct categories with three pretty distinct uses for the most part. The ASICS Novablast 5 to me is a standard daily trainer. So that means it's going to be decent at a lot of things, not great in any particular category. But you can use it for daily runs, daily miles, kind of your easy runs, your standard runs, maybe your long runs, and maybe the occasional workout, but it's really more for just kind of daily miles. Meanwhile, the Rebel V4 is what I would call more of a lightweight daily trainer, which to me kind of replaced the traditional racing flat. It's made for, yes, daily miles, but also kind of some short workouts where you need something that's going to have decent ground feel, that's going to be very lightweight, and is going to be able to pop off the ground pretty quickly. So that's kind of the first distinction between these two shoes as you're comparing them. The Rebel is very lightweight. It's going to be made for more faster paces. Really, it's honestly more of a workout shoe, and we'll get into some of the details, versus the Novablast 5 is really more of your easy long run, standard run shoe. Now from a price perspective, both shoes come in at $140. A pretty typical range for both standard daily trainers as well as lightweight daily trainers. Really, both of these shoes are going to be some of the best bang for your buck. This was my favorite standard daily trainer of 2024, and this was my second place lightweight trainer of 2024. Now, from a specs perspective, the Novablast comes in at 9 ounces and 255 grams, versus the Rebel comes in at 7.4 ounces and 210 grams. So there's a pretty significant weight difference between the shoes. The Rebel itself is very, very lightweight, and it's super noticeable even as I hold these shoes in hand. From a stack perspective, the Novablast comes in at 41.5 in the heel, 33.5 in the forefoot for an 8mm heel to toe drop, and the Rebel comes in at 34 in the heel, 28 in the forefoot for a 6mm heel to toe drop. Now, talking about the fit, the Novablast fits, I would say, true to size lengthwise. I would say it's wide foot friendly for the most part, and it's just a fairly accommodating shoe all in all. So if you have a super low volume foot, maybe a narrow foot, might not be the shoe for you, or you may want to even consider half sizing down, because I do think there's maybe a little additional room there in the toe box, but I wouldn't say it's particularly long at all. Meanwhile, with the Rebel V4, this is also very wide foot friendly. I would say that this fits on the wider end of standard, maybe not quite true wide though, but it fits a little bit short to me. So some people have wanted to half size up in this. The only reason I didn't half size up in the V4 was actually because it is wide enough that if I half sized up, I was worried I wouldn't be able to get good lockdown at all in the shoe. Now moving to the uppers, the Novablast 5 has that engineered jacquard mesh. From a breathability standpoint, it's not the most breathable, especially because you have like a lot of plush kind of cushion there in the heel that you can see. Even though the tongue is fairly lightweight, the shoe as a whole is a little bit warm, but better than previous Novablast models. The Novablast 4 and before that were very warm shoes overall, despite not necessarily being max cushion shoes. I find that I can get really good lockdown in the Novablast 5 though. I've seen some comments on some of my videos saying that people couldn't get any lockdown in the shoe, and I'm not really sure how they're lacing their shoes or what's going on there. Maybe they have a super low volume foot. I have a pretty average foot, and I felt like I could get some really good lockdown even without a runner's knot on this shoe. Meanwhile, on the Rebel, you have that engineered mesh, which is a little bit more of like a racing feel upper, and it's very, very breathable. The thing with the upper on the Rebel though is that the tongue is really, really short, and despite being gusseted, there is a little bit of shifting that happens within the shoe. And so you would probably want to do a runner's knot, but if you tried to do a runner's knot on the shoe, oftentimes you're going to get lace bite because that tongue is very, very short. And so the upper, I feel like, is a little bit baggy. It's very breathable. It's very lightweight. It's fairly minimal overall, which is nice. But personally, I would have liked to see a little bit more of a dialed fit on the shoe. But if you're going to be running outside in the heat a lot during the summer, then at the very least, this upper is going to be very, very lightweight and breathable for you, versus with the Novablast, you might be sweating a little bit. Now, moving to the midsoles, the Novablast has the FF Blast Max midsole, which is an EVA-based midsole, and it is soft yet supportive. It's a little bit softer than previous Novablast models, but when I run in the shoe, I do feel like it firms up quite a bit. And when I first wore the shoe, I thought it was actually firmer than previous models because of the responsiveness. Upon doing a side-by-side comparison and actually standing and running in the shoes with one in the Novablast 5 and one in the Novablast 4, it was pretty obvious at that point that yes, the Novablast 5 is softer, but again, I do find it to be more responsive, a little bit more energy return coming from this midsole. That being said, I still feel like it is more of a daily training foam, versus in the Rebel, you have Fuel Cell, which this version of Fuel Cell is a EVA and PIBA blend, and I'm not sure the exact percentage of the blend, but it has kind of that PIBA-based bounce and feel and responsiveness coming out of this midsole. So with it being a really lightweight shoe and having a very responsive foam, this is where it really does feel more like a workout shoe, where it's actually really difficult for me to run easy or relaxed in this shoe because the shoe just wants to pick up the pace. Versus the Novablast, while you can pick up pace, like you're gonna maybe go at fastest, like more moderate paces, more moderate efforts. It's gonna be a lot more stable, but the Rebel is going to be a lot more dynamic, a lot more fun, fairly unstable despite having a wide base, but going to be very, very bouncy and quick off the ground. Moving to the outsoles, I don't think either of these, to be honest, are like anything to write home about. On the Novablast, you have the Harlow rubber. A lot of people have said it's very, very slick. I haven't found that to be the case, but there's enough people saying it that I do feel like I need to mention that. For me, it held its own really, really well, but definitely wasn't the most grippy of outsoles that I've ever used. And then on the New Balance, you have that high abrasion rubber kind of strategically placed throughout. And I found that this could get a little bit slick depending on the terrain, but for the most part, it held its own, especially if you're running primarily on dry roads. Now, as far as my pick between the two, I would probably go Rebel V4 for daily training, but the caveat there is that if I'm picking the Rebel V4, that means that I have a different shoe that I'm doing my long runs in, and potentially another shoe that I'm going to do like more easier recovery in. Like head to head, I like the Rebel V4 more. If I'm looking for a more like traditional daily trainer, something that is going to be better for daily miles for me, that's where I definitely go Novablast 5. Or if I'm going to be asked to go on a lot of long runs, Novablast 5 is where I go. So really, like, they could be used in tandem, where the Novablast 5 is more of your daily use and long run, and the Rebel can be a non-plated workout shoe option for you, which I think is a really good application of this shoe. But if they're head-to-head, personally, I do enjoy the Rebel V4 a little bit more. Now, just some final thoughts on these two shoes. I probably overcomplicate the categories of running shoes. As someone who runs a lot in different running shoes, it's just kind of frustrating to me with the daily training category, especially as like new runners are going to a running store. If they're looking for a daily use shoe, there's just so many different options. I think it can be really, really overwhelming. And so breaking down those categories into those subcategories, I think would be beneficial in starting to help direct people to the shoes that they actually need to use, to direct people towards the shoes that would be most beneficial for them for the workouts that they're choosing. That being said, I get why they all fall within daily training, because different shoes, different feet, different strides, different preferences. And you know, I've run easy, I've run steady, I've run long in both of these shoes, and they get the job done. And at the end of the day, not everyone has a crazy shoe rotation. And if you're just looking for one or two shoes, having a broad category of daily training gives you a lot of options. Overall though, like I said, the Novablast 5 got my daily trainer of the year in 2024. The Rebel V4 got second place in lightweight daily training in 2024. So both of these shoes I like quite a bit. It's just that the lightweight daily trainer category is my favorite category of shoes, hands down. Now, if you stuck around this far, I sure appreciate you. Please take a second, like the video, leave a comment, let me know what other comparisons you'd like to see, or if there's anything else that I could be doing in my videos to make them even better for each and every one of you. And if you haven't already hit that subscribe button, please do so now. And don't forget to turn on notifications, as I'm dropping daily weekday videos in 2025. And just to wrap up this review, we'll keep the question real simple today, which is, if you've tried both these shoes, which one is your preferred, the Novablast 5 or the Rebel V4? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks, everybody.